And it's 6:30. So Sherri, the stage is yours.
Hi, and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Sherri Stein, co-chair of Busting the Taboo on Menstruation. Our project, the Silicon Valley Period Equity Project, started as a SEDEC circle created by Rabbi Hugh Seid-Valencia of Jewish Silicon Valley and Hannah Turnbull and Julia Cinnamon from Repair the World. I have a question for you. How many of you have ever thought about period poverty? The idea of a mother having to choose between feeding her children and buying period products should be a thing of the past. Or the sixth grader who can't go to school because she uses wadded up toilet paper instead of having the proper supplies. Tonight, you are going to watch the movie Pandora's Box, listen to an exciting conversation moderated by Rabbi Hugh Seid-Valencia with California State Assembly person Cristina Garcia and Planned Parenthood Vice President Lauren Babb. And then we'll talk about our call to action. We'd also like to send our positive thoughts and vibes to Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. So sit back, get ready to be introduced to subjects you probably have never thought about. Also, I'd like to explain that everybody has been muted. Please don't unmute yourself, but do write questions in the chat. We are going to be monitoring it throughout the movie and discussion, and we will answer your questions during the discussion. Enjoy.
Thank you, Sherri. So my job is to warm us up. We're gonna do some quick survey questions. Let's begin. So let's bring up the first question. Okay, so what is today's session about? Is it learning about people who cannot afford period products worldwide and in our backyards? Is it about donating menstrual supplies to those in need? Is it talking about menstruation across genders and cultures? Or is it making changes to our laws so that period products are accessible? This is you can select multiple answers, and if none of the questions are, or if the answer doesn't come to you, just do your best guess. Okay, and the answer is all of the above. Yes, so everybody, pretty much everybody got that. Okay, so let's go on to our next question. Thank you. According to a recent study, what proportion of US girls have missed school due to lack of period supplies? Is it 1 in 20, 1 in 10, 1 in 5, or 1 in 3? Oops. Okay, well, it looks like we got, yeah, our group is really on target here. We had one, we have some good answers. So this really speaks to the fact that the importance of this issue, because if we want to have equal opportunities for everyone, we have to make sure that girls are staying in school, and we don't want them to have to miss school when they're on their periods. Before we go to our last question, I want to give a shout out to our menstrual products drive. We have bins at JCCs and a synagogue near you. And you can also donate online. Our recipient is Sacred Heart Community Service. And that leads to our final survey question. So let's bring up our final question. So according to Sacred Heart Community Services, the products that we donate will be gone in 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 week, or 1 day. Okay, and the answer is, that went by me quickly, but the answer is, oh, there we go. The answer is 1 day. So when you think about that, it really speaks to the importance of this session. It tells us that this is not a world problem, a US problem. It's a problem in our own backyards. And it's also telling us that it's not enough to donate menstrual supplies to those in need. We need to do more. All of these questions are about the issue of period equity. Let's watch the film Pandora's Box to learn more about period equity.
Okay, so we are going to go back to the film after we have a discussion. And I'd like to introduce Rabbi Hugh Seid-Valencia, who is the Director of Collaborative Leadership and Jewish Engagement at Jewish Silicon Valley. Rabbi Hugh previously served as Jewish Community Liaison for Venus Healthcare, and prior to that, spent 10 years teaching Jewish studies at Kehillah Jewish High School in Palo Alto, where he served as Director of Israel and Jewish Studies curricula. After studying at Deep Springs College, he earned a BA with highest honors in English literature from UC Berkeley, and received his rabbinical training from the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. He's completed both the Rabbinic Leadership Training Program and the Tikkun Midot Training Program of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. He's a fellow of the Mandel Executive Leadership Program. He teaches and lectures on topics including parenting, Jewish meditation, Jewish perspectives on the afterlife, ethical dilemmas in extending life, and reading and writing ethical wills. Rabbi Hugh, take it away.
Thank you, Sherri. And thanks to the other members of your tzedek circle, Melisse Leib, Julie Kim, and Lisa Weissman, for putting this program together. This is amazing. I also want to thank Bonnie Slavitt and Maya Tripp of Jewish Silicon Valley and your team of professionals and volunteers for all that you do on a daily basis to harness the power of community, improve lives, build bridges of understanding, and strengthen the Jewish people. Thank you for supporting this effort and for providing this platform tonight. Thank you all for being here tonight with us in this virtual forum. Engage in the chat. We had that going at the beginning. Keep going with the chat. Engage there. Type your questions for the panel in the chat and get involved with this issue tonight and moving forward. And thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and welcome to our guests, Lauren Babb and California State Assembly person Cristina Garcia, for being with us tonight. So tonight, there are lots of resonances tonight. I'm going to read these words that my colleague and friend, Rabbi Jamie Alpert at Congregation Beth David over here in Saratoga wrote while we were prepping this evening. She wrote, as this Shabbat dedicated to celebrating liberation from slavery comes to a close, I'm heartbroken about the situation at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. Please join me in praying for Rabbi Charlie Crichton Walker and the 2 other hostages with him. We pray for their safe and speedy release, even as we offer gratitude for the hostage who was released earlier. This is an unfolding story, and my heart is broken. Our hearts are broken thinking of our brothers and sisters in Texas this evening. Tonight is also, in addition to being coming out of Shabbat, this is Jubilee. This is the Jubilee of Shemitah, of the Shemitah year, this year of restoring and releasing and renewing. This is Tu B'Shvat weekend. It's the birthday of trees on Monday. So the trees renew their cycles on Monday. And it's Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. So lots and lots of resonances that make this feel particularly poignant to be with you tonight. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be with you. And I feel my privilege in this space as both a man and a rabbi. Let me say that as a man on a daily basis, my life, both personal and professional, is improved by the power of justice-minded women. Many of these women are on the screen, and many more of them are behind in our communities. So on a very personal note, my wife Trisha and my daughter Dahlia skated roller derby for a number of years, and a shout out to Silicon Valley Roller Derby and the Santa Cruz Derby Groms here. And with their Derby sisters and Home First Services held annual menstrual product drives for several years. And as a rabbi, I feel a sense of naches, of a mixture of joy and gratification when inspired activists come together to make the world a better place. So with that, I'm going to introduce our two esteemed speakers for this evening and invite you to help me welcome them to this virtual forum. Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, during her tenure in the California, so welcome, good to see you. Thank you for being with us tonight. During your tenure in the California State Legislature, you served as the self-proclaimed period princess. You have been and continue to be a vocal champion and advocate of period dignity policies. In 2017, the Assembly member successfully passed and had legislation signed into law to ensure low-income schools in disadvantaged communities provide students with free menstrual products. In 2021, and I stop there and maybe we can do some jazz hands and thumbs up. And let me say at this point also, you know, if you're able to take yourself off of, if you're able to share your screen so we can see you, so we can see your jazz hands and thumbs up, that'll be great too. I'm gonna keep myself on gallery view as much as possible and encourage you to do the same so we can see each other. So in 2021, Assembly Bill 367 was signed into law and requires all schools maintaining grades 6 through 12, community colleges, college campuses, that's CSUs and UCs, to stock its public restrooms with free menstrual products. In addition, Assemblymember Garcia led the successful effort to repeal the tax charged on menstrual health products. This effort started an international movement to rectify the discriminatory taxation of menstrual products, which cost Californians born with a uterus over $20 million annually. Assemblymember Garcia is committed to continue the fight to ensure that having a uterus is no longer stigmatized by misunderstanding, bias, and fear. Assemblymember Garcia, that came from your website, and it's beautiful to read. It's fun to read. And so thank you very much for your presence here. We're looking forward to the conversation. I also want to introduce Lauren Babb, who is a community leader, Vice President of Public Affairs at Planned Parenthood Mar Monte, and former Public Affairs Director for Planned Parenthood Northern California. Lauren, thank you for being with us tonight as well. She is the former Assistant Director of the Office of Legislation and Regulations for the California Department of Developmental Services. Lauren helped pass SB 639, maybe some more jazz hands, which prohibits paying workers with disabilities less than minimum wage. She was a 2020 Women's Policy Institute State Fellow on the Reproductive Health Rights and Justice team, and helped pass SB 1237, the Justice and Equity in Maternity Care Act. Lauren is a graduate of American University, the George Washington University School of Political Management, and the 2019 class of Emerge California. You serve on the board of directors for Contra Costa Stand for Families Free of Violence. So again, thank you both for being with us. We've got 30 minutes for a conversation. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to try to scan the chat for additional questions and get some help with that. So we'll keep our eye on the chat and see if we can incorporate it as we go. But first of all, let me turn it to the two of you and ask, do you have any reactions to the film thus far, to this gathering, some initial thoughts? And again, thank you and welcome.
Part of it was a walk down memory lane. I've been working on period equity since 2016, and so it was nice to see a lot of friends who have been advocating this space long before me out there, and to be able to see the progress. I was really inspired by the marathon runner, and it was interesting to hear about the backlog. Not surprising, but just it was great to see everyone out there.
Lauren, any thoughts from you in terms of your reaction to the film?
Yeah, it was.
Tonight.
It was really centering this idea that the women in the film said that this is a human right, right? Having access to products is a human right. And I think more and more, especially in the space that I work in, I've been playing with that question, right? Like, what is a human right? What isn't? And in our current world, what are we doing to make sure everybody has equity to what they need, right? Sometimes I think we think about, the economics of life, but we really need to think about like the economic justice where everybody has their basic need met. And a part of that basic need is having access to menstrual products. And so I really appreciate this global problem, and even am more excited to talk about it in Santa Clara County, where I think you all are in a much more expansive and progressive space. I mean, there's always work to be done, but it is just a great conversation, and I'm glad we're continuing to have it because everybody's basic needs should be met, right? It's a human right. So those were my initial thoughts, and I'm so grateful that you all are continuing this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And really, I want to drill down on that question around what's happening in Silicon Valley itself. What effect does period poverty have on us as a community, would you say? And can you give us a sense for the severity of period poverty in Silicon Valley itself?
Sure, I can take a bit, but I'm not gonna give you more words than the period queen herself, right? So I'll give you a little backdrop, and then we can get the sort of lay of the land from the statewide perspective as well. But before I get into how Santa Clara County has sort of really dug into the issue, it really started at Oakland Unified School District. So they started a pad distribution at food set sites. And they realized that there was really a need for that. And our sister organization that's not Planned Parenthood, Alliance for Girls, advocated to expand that model to Santa Clara County. And they really ran with the torch to make sure that people understood the importance of the issue in Santa Clara County. And so they brought their work to board president at the time, Cindy Chavez. And Cindy Chavez worked with the Office of Education and I believe the Women's Policy Office that they have and First Five on a report to figure out what period poverty looks like in Santa Clara County. And then, so she issued that probably about the spring of 2020. And then in September of 2020, they had the results. And it was actually really interesting what they learned from that report. They learned that there was almost 63,000 people experiencing period poverty in Santa Clara County. And so out of that study, the Santa Clara Board of Supervisors allocated $1 million to try to alleviate period poverty in Santa Clara County. Now, the study showed that there is still, the total cost is around $2.2 million. So there's still some advocacy that you all could, a little homework I'll leave you with that you can do at the local level. But I certainly want to give kudos to the county for taking action on this. This is not something that happens everywhere. And I think the assembly member has some really good experiences in Southern California, but I really think Santa Clara is a model for Northern California. And I often get really excited when I talk about local county budgets because Santa Clara County is doing the right thing. As we go back to this idea of human rights and basic rights, we know that COVID-19 has impacted women and girls just drastically, right? And so out of that, it's really created this need. And as we know with COVID-19, kiddos weren't in schools, so they were really depending on those food banks. And so there's really this model already in place. And I think this is an opportunity to expand it, certainly to the Assembly members' point about budget allocations and what's to come. So that would be the snapshot of Santa Clara County, but you always are in a position to expand and provide more access right in your backyard.
That's amazing. Thank you, Assemblymember Garcia. There was a lot there. I'm going to just turn it over to you and see if you have any reactions to Lauren Babb's comments.
No, I mean, not at all surprised. I've talked to a lot of food banks and shelters over the years, and their second most asked for product after food is menstrual products out there. And so a lot of folks donate on a regular basis. We think about lots of things, but we don't think about these items. And then we also don't think about asking for them out there. And so the reality is that if people are struggling with food, and we saw that in all the counties, including yours, they're struggling with all the essentials, which, includes menstrual products. I think the bigger issue is that we just don't talk about this. And as women or people who menstruate, we're also taught to hide it and, figure it out on our own, whether we're here in California, the 5th richest economy in the world, or, in one of the many places we've seen in the movie. And I think a lot of time we equate this stuff with things happening in low-income communities like the city of Bell Gardens that I live in, or in third world countries like we were seeing in the video, but it's happening everywhere.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about the taboos and trying to work to break taboos around sexuality and gender, and more specifically around menstruation. Can you talk a little bit about how either of you, about how we best destigmatize these taboo subjects?
So I'll give you my ideas, and these are just my ideas from experimenting for the last 5 years on this. And I want to say that a lot of the growth for me in this space has been due to a lot of young individuals who have reached out and talked to me and have been partners and allies, and that reciprocal mentorship, but mentoring me on the other side about things. And so I always try to recognize that experience along the way. When I introduced my first bill, it was not about period poverty. It was literally, I was angry at being taxed for having a uterus. And I was like, this is not, a luxury. Through that discussion, menstrual equity, I've learned and I've grown in that space, including being more inclusive. Not everyone who menstruates identifies as a woman out there. Or even I used to be the tampon queen, and now I'm the period princess because there's lots of products and I don't want to make it seem like that's the best one for you. But I would say that the best way to do it is just talk about it. And have products available and accessible. If you show up to my office, there's menstrual products everywhere. Instead of a candy bowl, I have menstrual products. If, when I see that someone doesn't have menstrual products in the bathrooms, I recommend that they, I like ask somebody, if you need a box, I'll get you a box. Like, put it out there. You come to my house, they're not hidden, they're available, because you never know when someone's gonna need it, and they shouldn't have to come find me out there. And so I think talking about it, but even words like tampon, when I first started, I remember talking to one of my colleagues, now a senator actually, and was like, stop saying the word tampon. Like, that just really freaked her out. And I was like, what's bad about a tampon? Like, what's dirty about it? Like, or what's scary about it? And so having those conversations, over time has helped move the pendulum. But I think ultimately it's being able to have those conversations and not being dismissive. I think our first reaction is to be dismissive or make a joke, and a lot of jokes have been made at my expense. But it's our biology, right? It's how we have reproduced and like we exist. And so I shouldn't have to be ashamed of my biology. And the last thing I'm going to say is I hate the word hygiene. We're not dirty. It's not a hygiene product. It's a medical product. It's our biology. And it's also being conscious about our words that we use. And we're not always going to get it right, but it's like allowing yourself that grace, but also building, regularly with the words you use to be better.
It's amazing. Yeah. So just a couple quick thoughts. We have so much to learn from our youth around issues around equity and justice. I feel that in my work as well. So much to learn from our young people. I love what you said about using language, speaking up, and being thoughtful about the words that we use. I think that's really critical around all of these issues. Lauren, any thoughts from you around this issue around breaking taboos and shaping our culture to be more invested in menstrual equity.
Yeah, I would echo everything the assembly member said. I think the only other thing I would add is this is like also a person's health, right? Like, you know, if I have COVID, everyone's at this point is giving me all the tools, all the resources to be better, right? And we have to think about it in that same vein where we're putting people at risk when they don't have the products that they need. And so just considering the fact that just like we all want to be healthy and safe, this is a human right that keeps people healthy and safe. And you know, making sure that you're reaching out to the partners on the ground in your local community that are already doing this work. Sometimes I think we try to reinvent the wheel on these really ideas that we all want to work towards, but you know, Alliance for Girls, First Five, there's also a health consortium partnership in Santa Clara County, and they are doing the work on the ground. So make sure you connect with them and see what they've learned and see how they've transformed this work in a pandemic. So yeah, just continue to spread the word, and certainly the youth are leading the way. I learn something every day from a youth, and I can only just say, like, they know what's going on, and they're going to do what's right for them.
So that's great to start giving shout outs to partners. Maybe we can share some of those in the chat too, so that people have a sense of who are trusted partners in this work. Moving forward. In the chat itself, we've got a comment that the Red Box project from London is very interesting. I don't know if either of you have any, if that resonates, then again, let's add some of these partners and ways of connecting with them even in the chat. So that, our Assemblymember Garcia, just turning to you, it feels like there's been a tremendous amount of change since you joined the State Assembly on this issue, and you know, just even in the last year or two, it feels like. I'm wondering what you see as the key to making real change in our communities from your experience.
I mean, whether it's on menstrual equity or the slew of things we cover, it's about sharing experience, right? It's humanizing the discussion out there and being fearless about it. And, you know, I have a soapbox, and so I'm well aware of that. And it's like, how do I use that soapbox for change? And change, this is not the only change that's needed, right? But change that I could be passionate about. And so this is something that I could definitely be passionate about out there. And it's been, you know, I had a young woman who was in college, who was one of my witnesses early on for my AB 10 to include, initially it was in all schools, but it got narrowed down to just Title I schools. But she came and shared her story about how her father had to barter work to get her daughter, her small little sister, milk. And he also needed the menstrual products for her. She was in high school, and how she felt guilty asking the father to barter work for menstrual products is like, clearly the milk is more important, but equally important, if she has access to these products, she could get sick, she could miss school, you know, and she was missing school. And so just that anguish she had every month and every guilt with that competition for other essentials at home, I think was really powerful. And was part of what allowed us. Initially, it was like, this is too expensive, we can't do it, schools can't do it. But having her story there and her dad joined her really started to change the perspective of my colleagues, you know, and so like, okay, maybe we can't figure out how to do this. And so the bill was initially narrowed to just Title I middle schools and high school bathrooms. This last year, we got it in middle school through university levels bathrooms, period, which is exciting out there. But it's really been from young people sharing their experiences out there, and that's how we get things done a lot of times in the legislature. And I think some of those jokes still happen. I'll give you one that happened to me just recently. Last year, I was working on a different bill and it blew up, and we were trying to revive it. And we actually did revive it through different, you know, inside baseball things that we do. But I came into work the next day, and we have a members lounge. And as I was walking in, like literally the first comment out of like a handful of my colleagues were like, "Are you still on your period?" And I was just like, whoa. I was like, there's all kinds of problems here with this comment. Like, first of all, you were wrong for yesterday, and like now you're wrong for these comments. And so while there's been a lot of progress, there's still a lot of progress to go. And my colleagues have been hearing me about this nonstop. So, you know, there has been shift, but this idea that a period is something we could make fun of, or, you know, check off as why you're upset and just dismiss our issues continues.
I have the sense that it's difficult to speak up in those situations. I'm wondering, even in that moment, what it called for you, for you to speak up in that moment on a personal level.
Literally, like I have a face that scares them, and they saw that and they stopped, and I was like, I can't believe you just went there. I'm gonna walk away because I have no good way to help you explain why you're wrong at this moment. And then I had to approach them like 2 days later when I was calm to like, this is what happened. But my face was like, I was so upset that when I walked out, I know some of my other colleagues stepped in and talked to them. So they were like, oh, so talk to me. And so it's also, I shouldn't always have to be the one person, right? It's like, don't be the bystander, but be the upstander. And so I was happy to hear that some of my colleagues stepped up and gave them, a piece of their mind and helped them hopefully grow into a better place. But yeah, this is, the work continues, and there's been so much progress. Tampon is no longer a scary word. And we have free menstrual products in the Capitol. We had many years without them being free. And so there's been progress, but it's still something that's very dismissed and joked about, even in the Capitol.
Yeah. So Lauren, I wonder if you have any responses to what you just heard, but then also we are also curious to hear a little bit about your work at Planned Parenthood and how that intersects with the issues that we're discussing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild ride. I just tell you to Google the Supreme Court is what I will say, is that that's everyday reality here. But I think it's, in terms of this issue, if I leave you with one piece of homework, is to just continue to follow how Santa Clara County allocates their budget for the next year, right? So you all have the opportunity to change that in $1 million into $2 million. And that's, I think, the silver lining for us at Planned Parenthood, is when we can find local solutions to things and really invest the community in doing the right thing, right? I can't control the national narrative, I can't control the state narrative, but I can work with all of you allies to make sure that we have better laws at the local level for folks that come here from out of state, but also Californians. Right now we're really working on these reproductive freedom resolutions, and Santa Clara County and the city have also signed on to them. So real round of applause for them for being leaders. And what we're asking is just defend people's basic rights. Say that this is a place that is going to make sure that there's reproductive freedom no matter what. And it's been an interesting ride, that means a lot for many people, but all we can do is make sure that we are setting the policy that we want to see, even when we're long gone, right? So in 10 years, that resolution will still be on the books to help someone. And that's, I think, what we're focused on, is just being proactive about what needs to be in place to keep people, to keep our doors open, honestly, but also make sure that there's access no matter what. And so I imagine at the state level, there's a lot going on. It's just the start of legislative cycle. So I'm certainly going to come back to you all with some more concretes, but I'm really, really impressed with the governor's budget and all of the investments that have been made to make sure that this access happens. And, California has this lovely term of being a reproductive freedom state. And people always ask me, what does that mean? And that means that the state is invested in resources to make sure that women and people that are bodied, everybody needs healthcare, right? Will continue to have those services no matter what. And so I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this work right now, because we don't actually know the answers to any of it. I would be lying if I told you we had a roadmap to how to fix all of this, but we're working on an infrastructure that will be sound. And we have the support and resources from not only the governor, but also our members of the Assembly and Senate. So I'm incredibly excited, even though every day I ask myself why I do this work, because it's incredibly nerve-wracking, I can tell you that. But we love our local partners, and our supporters just bring us so much joy. And then the last thing I'll say is just continue to tell those stories, right? My favorite spiel is, I was born in 1992, and that was the last time that Roe v. Wade was on the chopping block, so to speak. And so when I have these conversations with folks, they always say to me, well, when I was younger, this happened, or when this happened. And I would like you to tell those stories to your daughters, your nieces, whomever, your nephews, all of that, because our generation has no idea what it's like to lose a right. We we've never lost the right? And so we need to be encouraged to hear what could happen so that we're on the front lines, making sure we can do everything we can. So that's a long-winded way of trying to be very positive about it, but just know that we are so grateful to all of you and to your community for the fight that you continue to have. And we know that you all will support us no matter what. And we appreciate that very much. And that's why I love doing this work. And don't get too tired.
Thank you. There's a lot in there. Like this notion of telling our personal stories, continuing to share our personal stories, staying involved in being educated around the issue feels critical, and being in touch with partners and collaborating. And I heard you saying to us that you're willing to be involved in the conversation moving forward. And I just want to say to our folks gathered here tonight that this should be the big a continual effort, that we should continue this work moving forward, that this is not just an event but a conversation that we're a part of moving forward. So thank you for that. There's a question here for me in the chat, which is a little awkward, but there it is. I'm one of the very few men in the session tonight. Can you share share why you wanted to play this moderator role tonight? Well, so I got asked to do it, which was, as I said at the beginning, an honor and a privilege. And I was like, why me a little bit? And I will say that what I said in my introduction, that I really do feel like my life is significantly better because the women leaders, both in my professional life and my personal life, have been empowered and felt empowered to speak for justice and speak for community. So I know that women having access to their voices and to their power is good for the world. And this work in terms of removing barriers to equity in the way that was described in the film, I think is really critical. And so, which sort of leads into my next question, which is that in the film clip that we screened, Jennifer Weiss-Wolf, the co-founder of Period Equity, said, the power structures and the entire infrastructure of our systems are designed to not elevate our voices. And so for both of you in the work that you do, what have you learned about elevating women's voices? And here I also want to say the voices of those who menstruate. Yeah, I don't know who's going to go first. I'll do that awkward silence thing for a little bit.
I'll say this. I think representation matters. So I think it's not shocking that menstrual products were seen as a luxury. They're taxed, they're not available, they're not seen as essential. Because for a long time, it's been mostly men in office, and that didn't start to change until, my lifetime. Actually, I'm not that old, but I started to see those changes in my lifetime. And so it shouldn't be surprising. It shouldn't be surprising when women have been taught to hide their periods, have been taught to be ashamed of it as well, to not talk about it even amongst themselves out there. And so representation matters. And so things didn't start to change until you started to see women, and I think also seeing younger women there. Initially they seemed like, well, you had to have raised your kids already and been past that stage of menstruating for you to be in the legislature. And so I think having a variety of experiences matter out there. And so as we diversify further and have different people at the table, I think you'll see additional issues around equity that come to the forefront and are elevated as well. And then I will say the other thing is, we talk a lot about this in the Women's Caucus of how it's exhausting to kind of feel like you're the only one in the room. When the Women's Caucus is up to 38 members, 39 is the most we've ever had, and we had 39 until a week ago. So it's the biggest we've ever been, nowhere near parity. But I still have very limited number of Black women. At some point, I only had one in each house, right? And so you feel like you never get to top hat. I don't have any API women. Latinas, we're down to 3, and we've done a lot of work to grow. But it's coming to and being that ally. And when someone's saying, this is my experience, stopping and listening and saying, what power do I have? What privilege do I have? And how do I share that to elevate your story and yourself? Versus oftentimes we're kind of feel like we're like the crazy ones. Or I used to get told, you don't know, you just don't go, you just don't get it. And I don't know how many times I got told I was dumb earlier when I was already an assembly member, and I would be told I just didn't get it because I was like the only brown young person in the room. And so that experience didn't match everybody else. So, I just must be dumb is what I was told regularly. And so just being careful with that, I think is really important, but things are getting better. Like Lauren, I also want to be positive, and I've seen change out there, more diversity, and not where we need to be. But I'm excited about where we're at and where the caucus is going in the next cycle, the election cycle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, what she said. So I think the only thing I'll add is just, again, I'm a local girl, so I'm like, what's happening in your backyard is what I think is in our control, right? Like we can control our communities to a certain extent, and I would be remiss if I didn't do a shameless plug for the Women's Commission in your county. So you have an amazing Santa Clara Women's Commission that works pretty closely with the Women and Girls policy office. And so I would tell you to engage with them because they've done a lot of work in your county on this issue, and just continue to build community and don't be afraid of the big idea. The beauty of doing policy in the local and the statewide level in California is that we get to be innovative, right? We get to do the things that nobody thinks can be done. And so that's what keeps me going, is that if we can do it here, it can be done in my home state of Michigan, fingers crossed sometimes. And so we just continue to push the needle on what policy looks like, and do it collaboratively, and make sure that you're including those voices at the table. And also don't co-opt the movement either, right? Like make sure you find the people that are on the ground doing the work and bring them into the fold for a good policy solution. So I think, y'all got all the points to do the work, and it's just a matter of working together for a solution that makes sense for what is in your space to control.
I want to thank you both so much for your inspirational words. You've left us with a charge moving forward. I want to see if we can be as specific as we can in terms of that charge about what we can do to move this work forward. So we're going to continue to use the chat for that. And I'm going to invite Lisa to join me take us through a little bit of the charge, what we can do in terms of a call to action moving forward. So thank you again, Assembly Member Cristina Garcia and Lauren Babb of Planned Parenthood. It was a pleasure talking with you. And Lisa, the floor is yours, virtual though it may be.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you. Some applause for our wonderful panelists and our moderator. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Weissman. I'm one of the committee members for our event this evening. And I want to thank both of our speakers, Lauren Babb and Assembly Member Cristina Garcia, as well as Rabbi Hugh, for that fantastic conversation. We really appreciate your time and commitment to this issue. I feel really energized and excited. I hope you do too, because it is time to take action. So I'm going to walk through some of our next steps here. Okay. So these are the three main things that we would like to focus on in terms of our next steps. I think it's so important to change things legislatively to really kind of address the issue as macro as possible, right? So what we're doing is sending letters to state senators, assembly members, and county supervisors. It's great to talk about this at city council meetings, like really get folks involved that can help us make change happen in a wider way. We are also donating period products and or cash to Sacred Heart in San Jose and using them as a mechanism to distribute these products to their constituencies that need them. And very importantly, we need to talk across genders and bust the taboo. So first, our letter writing campaign. Next week in your email box, you will be receiving a template letter to customize and distribute to your representatives. So if it's your assembly person, state senator, county supervisor, and once that's completed, you'll send it off either email or snail mail, whichever is more convenient for you. We have a lot of information available for you in the email we're sending out, all the details you need to do that. If you don't know who those people are, there's sites online where you can look up that information really easily. And I'm going to walk through that very quickly just so you can see the details of how to do that. So you'll have an email, you'll have a URL that'll lead you to this page to find your California representative. So real easy peasy, put in your address, click locate, and you will find that individual. Both the rep and the assembly person, the senator and the assembly person will be forthcoming there. And this is a little trickier, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time here. So this is to find the county supervisor. So when you come in, you'll need to scroll down on the left there, and I've put red boxes around the key bits. So you're going to click on, look up your districts, and then you're going to put in your address and click go, and that will give you that county supervisor's information. That's going to take you to your district, and we are going to send you the information. So all you have to do is know which district you're in, and then you'll have all the details for the supervisor contact. So there's ways to donate online. We have set up a couple things here, which is really going to help facilitate this. One is a credit card option to give money to Sacred Heart. The idea there is that they would use the money to purchase products to donate to menstruating people in need. And then we also set up a registry on Amazon where you can buy products that are needed, and they will be sent directly to Sacred Heart to distribute. And I'm going to walk through this in a little more detail, but we have a donation page with links in the chat, I think and hope. And so you'll be able to get a little bit more information there. So real quickly, this is the donation page. The link to this is in the chat. And then you'll see the blue text with links to Amazon and also the credit card. There's some in-person options as well to drop off supplies, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. So this is the Sacred Heart page. So if you'd like to make a donation for them to buy products, come here. And then we ask that you leave in the comment box, just put the word Jubilee, and they'll know that this donation was made to support this initiative. Okay. And I think we're all familiar with Amazon after almost, how long in COVID land? I think we're all pretty familiar with Amazon, so it shouldn't be too difficult. The link will take you to this custom registry page. You'll see all of our partners here, the logos of the various temples and the JCC as well as Sacred Heart. And then you have a whole slew of products underneath to choose from that would be helpful for folks, including diapers. So it's not just the menstrual products, but also diapers. So I'm going to walk you through just a real quick example. Let's say we're going to buy the Playtex Gentle Glide on that left corner there. So you would put that in your cart and then proceed to checkout. You can see where it says it defaults to this as a gift because it's a registry. So for Silicon Valley Period Equity Project gift list, and then you proceed to checkout. And I'm working with Amazon to try to adjust this, but their policy is to hide addresses for privacy because most people use this for wedding registries or other parties. So this Luke Mamian is our contact there at Sacred Heart. So his name will show up, and underneath it, what you can't see is it says Sacred Heart and also Jubilee. So they know when they get this exactly what it's for and who donated. So, and again, I hope to have this updated so it'll be a little bit more intuitive, but just know that Luke is the guy. So when you see that name pop up, don't be concerned. And then again, we want to make sure that they know where it's coming from. So in the gift message, if you could just write Jubilee, and then you save gift options like you would normally, the kind of yellowy orange boxes, and that's it. So those are the two online options. Are there any questions in the chat? Let me just take a real quick look and see if anybody needs anything. Nope, okay, great. So the drop-off donations, we have a picture of the barrel, which my co-committee members picked up barrels and distributed them just before things started to close for Omicron. So some of these places have more limited hours now just to keep everybody safe. We'll try to keep that document up to date in terms of hours, but this is the information we have right now. And I've got a pro tip from our pro Sherri. The dollar store sells products at a great price. So that's a thought. If you want to pick up stuff to donate, you might want to pick it up at the dollar store. You can get more for your money. And again, we will let people know via that the electronic donation page. It's a Google Doc, and if we have more information about hours and things, we can put that in there for you, so nobody has to waste a trip. Okay, and for some reason, there we go. Oops, I don't know. There we go. Okay, so the third thing that is really important, and we sort of, and I don't mean third that it's the third, third ranking, but the third on my list is to talk to the men in your life. This is so important to get rid of the taboo. It's, I think we've talked about this enough, and it was covered quite a bit in the movie, but we need to teach folks what's happening, what's happening to women, the unfairness of this, and make men comfortable, reduce the awkwardness. I think that, men and women feel uncomfortable with these conversations, and we need to change that. And the only way that we can change it is to start to talk about it. And discussing it with family can have a huge impact on our family, and then cascading beyond that. So it's really important to talk about this. And we all need to unite to bust the taboo. So I'm gonna take one last, it doesn't look like there's anything new in the chat. If anybody has any quick questions, just put them in the chat for me now. Otherwise we can, handle it offline. But those were the main things I wanted to cover. I think we learned in the poll earlier, and this is so important, that a bin that's filled today is gone tomorrow. And there's such a huge need. And the bins that we fill are just filling today's needs, which is important. Absolutely. If you have your period and you're going to miss work or you're going to miss school, getting product is really just life-saving. When we look at that movie, it's heartbreaking to see what happens to young women and children, how the trajectory of their lives has changed because of this. But having that product today doesn't create lasting change. So some of these other things are really important, getting legislators to advocate for these things, to have legislators sign on to bills and show their support, ask for money. It's really important that we have money to make sure that there are products available in WIC stores and other places so that women can get them affordably or free, ideally. So I just want to put in a last thank you to everybody for being on this call tonight with Jubilee. This is very important, and I think we can make a really big difference by working together to bust the taboo. So thanks again for your interest, and we are going to get back to our feature presentation.
Thank you all for spending your evening with us. We really hope you're ready to fight for basic human rights for menstruating people. So in conclusion, I'd like to tell you I'd like to thank a lot of people. This was not just the work of one person, but many. First, my SEDAC circle. I want to tell you how fabulous you all were. And this never would have gone from a passion to an event with hopefully a huge impact without you. And that's Melisse, Leib, and Julie, Jiwon, Kim, and Lisa Weissman. Bonnie Slavitt for her insights and ideas, and Maya Tripp. We can't thank you enough for encouraging us to go big. I'd also like to thank our wonderful and illuminating speakers, Rabbi Hugh, Assemblyperson Cristina Garcia, and her team of people who have been in the background working with Melisse to get the letter written. Lauren Babb, and I've been working in the background with Diana Zamora Marquin, who's on her team. Diva for letting us show this film and for putting in a personal introduction. And they just sent several huge boxes, 250 backpacks, which we're going to donate to Sacred Heart so that they can put kits together for all the women and girls and people that they need to. And they see 50,000 families a year. And the JCC for supporting our dream. And I'd like to say, please remember to send the letter to your state representatives, your local county reps, senators, and fill up the bins, people. Also, we'd like to tell you that we will be sending out a letter that's got all the links so that all you'll have to do is link and send, including the letter. If anybody doesn't have any other questions or comments, have a nice evening and thank you for spending your evening with us. Good night.
Good night. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Sherri.
Oh, thank you, Maya.
Good night. Bye-bye.